Hi, everybody. Welcome to week number 6. Hard to believe we're week 6 already. Just a couple of housekeeping items to start. First off, everyone should have received their week 4 paperback now, Auditing Your Leadership. Thank you for your work on that. And of course, on Monday, you'll receive your week 5 feedback. In addition, what I wanted to let you know, because we're in week 6, I wanted to invite you to an optional Zoom call that we will have on Tuesday evening at 9:30 Atlantic Standard Time. I mentioned it way at the start of the course that we would do it in week 3 and week 6. So we're at week 6. And of course, the purpose of the optional Zoom call on Tuesday evening of this week during week 6 is to discuss the week 7 assignment. I'll have a supplementary document for you. We can go through that. I'll also tape it. So if you want to, watch it at a later date, if you can't make it, that's great. And I'll put it in the course news and bulletins. So once again, this coming Tuesday in week 6 at 9:30 Atlantic Standard Time. So this week we're going to focus on rural stakeholder engagement. I know a number of folks in class are in rural in northern settings, so I hope this week resonates for you and with you. Of course, two learning outcomes for the week. The first one is you're going to consider strategies to develop an effective stakeholder engagement plan specific to rural community members and consider opportunities to assess whether a stakeholder engagement framework for a rural context has been successful. So that was one of the articles, and we'll talk about that in a second. So, of course, there's some unit notes this week. We're going to examine themes emerging from a focus on engaging stakeholders from rural contexts. Many rural communities face unique challenges that can be even more complex than those in geographic locations that receive more attention, perhaps urban settings. Leaders must take steps to engage rural, local communities in conversations about their interests in an effort to create shared goals. And every article this week had a little bit of that in it. This goes beyond making efforts to engage rural communities on the organization's terms. It also includes efforts in understanding what rural communities wish to be engaged about and how they want the engagement process to look. So it's empowering rural communities and not just putting our own lens on top of it and making assumptions about what people in rural settings would want. That's a good lesson for all stakeholder engagement, but perhaps particularly for rural settings. Engagement processes must reflect the priorities of the participating rural stakeholders. Two DQs this week. First one, this unit's readings provide a variety of ideas to create effective stakeholder engagement strategies specific to a rural context. What is one engagement action or strategy that could be particularly useful within a rural setting? So describe it. Say, hey, if I was engaging, or some of you already are, in a rural setting, here is one strategy I would use, and then support it with the theory and say, I'm not just making this up. This is something I would do, a very specific example I will describe for you in my DQ based on, and then add some theory to that as well. The second DQ this week, if engagement processes are not particularly relevant to a rural context, there's little practical usefulness and an opportunity is missed. How could an organization assess whether an effort at rural engagement has been successful? So it's one thing to plan out engagement. It's another thing to assess whether it's been successful. So how would you do that? So again, be specific and say, hey, this is how, as a leader or as a future leader, I would assess whether an engagement strategy aimed at a rural setting had been successful. Here's how I do it. And here's the theory I'm leaning on to describe why I would do it that particular way. Of course, there are three readings from the week. The Peltier et al. Reading from 2019. They talk a lot about a project that they had undertaken in a rural BC setting. There's the Raffi et al. Article, and though it's not particular to a rural setting, the seed method that they've described, I think, is very much in line with what we're talking about this week. So I chose to add this, and because they talked a lot about involving stakeholders about what is meaningful to them as part of the engagement, and not just telling them what you think is meaningful to them. So though the Raphael article isn't particular to a rural setting, I think the seed method they're describing there lays very well beside what we're talking about with rural settings, And of course, there's chapter 7 from the book around rural engagement. So enjoy the 3 readings. I look forward to reading your DQs and participating with you in that throughout the week. Again, a reminder, on Tuesday evening of this week at 9:30 p.m., we will have an optional Zoom call to discuss the week 7 assignment. So hope you have a great week 6, and we'll talk soon, folks. Take care.